Greetings, Guardians. Jake Parker here, and if you're somebody like me who enjoys bounty prepping for the next upcoming expansion of Destiny 2, this is an easy-to-follow, straight-to-the-point guide for new and seasoned players on bounty prepping for the final shape so you can maximize your leveling, experience, artifact, and maybe even have a competitive edge in what could possibly be Destiny 2's last ever raid race coming this summer. I'll be sharing the simple rotation method I've used for the last few years, some of the recommended setup needed, and a few tips to point out every step of the way. If you enjoy this video and look forward to more Destiny and gaming content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to know when my next video will be live. To start, let's break down our focus for how we're going to bounty prep. First, you're able to bounty prep on every character you have created in Destiny 2. This means if you have a Hunter, Titan, Warlock, or any combination of the three, you can bounty prep on all three characters at the same time and earn up to 3 times the experience for all of the bounties you've completed on all your characters. If you'd prefer to only prep on 1 or 2 characters, however, then that's absolutely okay too, and this guide can still work for you in the same way. Second, you can hold up to 63 total bounties and quests at one time per character for a total of 189 maximum bounties across all three. However, I highly do not recommend this and instead recommend capping your bounty prep for each character at 60. This is because once Final Shape releases, you'll likely automatically receive quests and bounties related to the expansion, and not having an open slot to receive those auto quests could possibly stall your progress or even lock you out of the expansion altogether. It's definitely recommended to keep a few open slots on each character just in case, and you're only sacrificing a small bit of experience to do so. And lastly, before you start your bounty prep, consider completing or deleting all random and unfinished quests you have on your characters. We want to free up as much space as possible for maximum experience, and since quests also count against our bounty count, we want our quest list to be as empty as possible. Now to get right into it, let's start with the weekly bounties. These are the high priority bounties we're going to complete and hold on to, since each weekly bounty you complete will reward you with a whopping 12,000 experience each and rotate in their respective vendors on Tuesdays during the game's reset time. As of January 2023, there are 9 vendors in the game that have weekly bounties available for you to obtain. Nimbus on Neomuna, Variks on Europa, Shah Han in the Cosmodrome, both Eris Morn and the Lectern on the Moon, Petra in the Dreaming City, Starhorse in the Eternity's Treasure Hoard, Hawthorne in the Tower Courtyard, and finally Same 14 in the Tower Hangar. Each of these vendors carries between 1 to 3 weekly bounties at a time, are easy to complete, and will remain in your inventory once they are completed. However, I do recommend caution and a bit of urgency when it comes to some of these vendors, particularly with Petra and Variks. Both of these vendors have what's called a named bounty, or a weekly bounty that tasks you with a specific area or activity in their respective zones, unlike other vendors whose weekly bounties repeat and can be completed at any time. For Petra, these are the Ascendant Challenge bounties, while for Variks, it's the Empire Hunt bounties. If these specific weekly bounties are not completed the same week they're obtained, they'll expire and become unavailable until they rotate back in the following weeks, which is extremely time-consuming. But of course, since this season is 7 months long, you really don't need to stress that too much. And as a quick note, for the Petra Ascendant Challenge bounty, head on over to Braytech if you ever need to find out where the Ascendant Challenge is each week. Their UI is extremely simple to navigate, and with a few clicks, you'll know exactly where to go to complete your bounty. Next up after weekly bounties is going to be our daily bounties. These are going to be our lower priority but still important fillers that will reward you with 6,000 experience each and allow you to cap off the amount of experience you're going to obtain during the next expansion once all of the weekly bounties have been completed. Basically, every vendor you find in the game will have daily bounties for you to complete in some form, especially your core playlist vendors such as Zavala, Shaxx, and Drifter. When it comes to daily bounties, I greatly recommend focusing on the daily bounties of these core playlist vendors before any others. And the reasoning for this is because we don't want to test the waters of what bounties may or may not be deleted by Bungie when the new expansion drops. They've mentioned doing this before, although we haven't really seen this happen to date, but just to be safe, we want to focus on daily bounties from vendors that we know have withstood in prior seasons. All right, let's dive right into the recommended rotation schedule for how you're going to complete these bounties. For the first 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to focus on going to the 9 vendors with weekly bounties, obtaining and completing any available weekly bounties that are available. The first week is going to be the hardest and largest bounty horde, with each vendor giving you 1 to 2 at a time, but during the following weeks at reset, you'll only need to obtain any non-repeatable weekly bounties or named bounties that are currently in their rotation. By doing this, you're confirming that all available weekly bounties have been completed for the maximum experience possible. If you go to each vendor and you have none available to obtain, then you are exactly where you need to be. Then, during the remaining weeks, head over to any open vendor, especially the recommended playlist vendors, and start knocking out individual daily bounties that you'd like until you reach your limit of 60 on each character. By waiting this long, this ensures that daily bounties aren't taking up a possible weekly bounty slot, while also keeping those 3 extra slots open for the upcoming expansion quests. And as a final resource to help you with your bounty prep experience, head on over to the Destiny Recipes checklist and sign in with your account to access the pre-seasonal checklist. Then click Show Bounties. This will show you a complete and comprehensive list of all of the current bounties in the game, including when they're obtainable and a rough estimate of the experience you'll receive, artifact module unlock, and the artifact bonus, if any, that you'll receive when we finally dive into the final shape. A couple quick final notes for this video. As we look at the roadmap leading into Final Shape, we have a plethora of content in the coming months, including Wishes, Guardian Games, Moments of Triumph, and Into the Light. During these activities, there may be a possibility that new weekly bounties could enter the fray that weren't mentioned in this video. If this is the case and you'd prefer to delete a few daily bounties in order to grab a few more weeklies, that's entirely up to you. But again, I'd keep in mind that there's no confirmation on what Bungie may or may not choose to delete as the Final Shape arrives, so if you choose to do this, keep this final thought in mind just in case they finally decide to drop the ban hammer on these bounties as soon as Final Shape comes up. And lastly, if you're like me and you prefer not to have access to specific bounties such as Hawthorne's Weekly Clan or Saint 14's Trials, which I honestly avoid Trials at all times anyways, that's absolutely okay. Simply replace those weeklies with a few dailies and you won't need to stress, as you're not losing that much experience at all. Thank you so much for watching this video, Guardians, and if you enjoyed the content, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to know when my next video will be live. Thank you for being the reason I get to do what I do. We are on the last roads to the Final Shape, the end of the original Destiny saga, and I cannot wait to see you Starside. Until the next video, Guardians, game on.